Good morning, everybody.
Well, it's about that time. The Rutledge Perspective Radio Show coming your way this morning at 10 a.m. Central from the historic KCOH TV radio station, The Boost, at the corner of Alameda and Wichita in Houston, Texas. Come join me because we're going to chat about leadership and showing up and getting aligned and getting clear and taking action and voting and voting and voting and all of that stuff. So join me for some great conversation and a few laughs. And when we're done, be sure and head over to your favorite podcast platform or to my website, laurelrutledge.com, and subscribe to my weekly podcast, The Rutledge Perspective Podcast. Episodes drop every Wednesday, and they are short and sweet, commute worthy. And I promise you, you'll get something out of every one that will help you shift your perspective. Because when you shift your perspective, you shift your circumstances. See you soon.
Good morning. It is Tuesday morning. It is the 7th of March in 2023, and I am Laurel Rutledge, your host of the Rutledge Perspective Radio Show Live. Can you see my poster back here? Rutledge Perspective Radio Show Live here on KCOH TV, the Boost Global Network, in the historic KCOH radio station at the corner of Alameda and Wichita here in Houston, Texas, in the historic Third Ward. We got history all around us, y'all, which is cool because we're in Women's History Month. And so today we are going to be talking about my 3-year anniversary. I can't believe it. It is 3 years that I've been on this show. And so I want to talk about with all of you from an entrepreneur's perspective about showing up, about what it means to just stand in your truth, about what it means to actually come and do something that's way out of your comfort zone, but it's something you said that was part of your vision. What does that look like? So that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we get started, I got some announcements for you. So hang in there with me, and then we're going to get into this thing today because it has been such a great revelation over the last couple of weeks, and had a great time last night. I'll tell you all about that in a minute too as we get into it. So first of all, voting, vote. Make sure you go get registered to vote. What a great time to vote! Women's History Month. Go take a girl you know who just turned 18. Go find a woman who needs to go and check her registration. Go get registered to vote. Make sure you're paying attention to your local elections. Make sure you're checking your registration on a regular basis because every once in a while they'll do something crazy and all of a sudden you're not on the rolls anymore and you know you're registered. So make sure you're paying attention and checking all that stuff. We do have some things coming up. So what happens to one of us happens to all of us. Remember, so Montenegro, they have a presidential election on the 19th. And then Cuba is having their parliamentary elections on the 26th. So there are some things happening in March outside of the U.S. And then next week, there's some things in the U.S. happening. There's a runoff in Phoenix, and there's some special elections in Nebraska and in Tennessee. So just pay attention. I am hoping to have someone from the League of Women Voters on here in the not too distant future. And I'm also going to have 2 people from the Launchpad and the Generator here in studio. So you'll get to meet them, really helping entrepreneurs in that space. And hopefully we'll have Legina Ray back on, the Us Space person, just because she's cool and she's a lot of fun. So we'll do that. All right. So this month, you're going to meet some really cool women on my podcast. The podcast drops every Wednesday, early in the morning. And so this month, you're going to have 4 amazing women. So the first one you're going to get tomorrow, Rachel Sawaya. So Rachel is the president and CEO of Vita Design in Portland, Oregon. She's actually a native Texan. She grew up in Texas, went to UT. She has her degree in interior architecture. She's just an incredible person. She's become a really great friend of mine. And she started her own business. And this is year 14 or 15 of her business. And so I've had the pleasure and the honor of working with her and her team as they are moving into these new spaces. But how many women can say they have built this amazing business for this long? I mean, she's just incredible. So you want to listen to Rachel's story. You'll hear her tomorrow. And then the week after that, we've got Dr. Shayla Toombs Withers. And so you saw Dr. Shayla last week when I released the Fireside Show with Dr. Shayla on my podcast. So this is her specific podcast interview. Dr. Shayla Toombs Withers, she is going to be with me on the podcast, and that'll release next week. So this week is Rachel. Next week is Dr. Shayla, who is an amazing. She is a doctor of osteopathic medicine and certified in family medicine, as well as obesity medicine and plant-based nutrition. So she's amazing. She's out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. So you'll get to meet her, and she's a star, which is always cool. And then the third week, you're going to get to meet Rebecca Thompson. Rebecca is actually one of my coaches, and she is in Baltimore. She's incredible. She and her twin sister have an amazing story. And Rebecca is someone who ran for office and who helps many, many other women run for office. And she is a clarity coach for high achieving Black women. That's what she does. Her niche is really clear. And now she's embarking upon a new journey for her life and what she wants to do. And we're going to talk about that on her episode. So that is 2 weeks from now, Rebecca Thompson. And then last week, but not least by any means, you're going to meet Anna Deshawn. And Anna's amazing. She says, "My name is Anna Deshawn, and my pronouns are anything that's respectful." That's Anna. She's created a space for BIPOC and QPOC individuals and creators to be able to tell their stories. She is the founder and CEO of E3 Radio. She came out of media, E3 Radio, and she also is the co-founder of the Cube, QUBE, which tells stories of marginalized folks in the queer LGBTQIA space. And what I love about Anna is she has created a safe space to be curious, because sometimes people just really have questions, like genuine, legitimate questions out of curiosity, not out of thrill seeking and trying to figure out a way to make you othered, but truly because they want to understand and be able to relate and be able to build relationships. And so you're going to meet Anna, and she's incredible. So got some amazing women this month for Women's History Month on the Rutledge Perspective podcast. And I think I'm going to have another announcement about the podcast tomorrow. So stay tuned to all of my social for that, because I was looking at some things this morning, and I think that's going to be a really cool announcement to have tomorrow. So stay tuned. The episode of the podcast, those drop on Wednesday mornings. So you'll be able to catch those, and you can catch all the replays on any of your platforms, but you can also catch it on my YouTube channel. So my YouTube channel is at The Rutledge Perspective. All the videos are there for all the podcasts. All the live radio shows are there. I'm broadcasting live right now on YouTube. And all the fireside shows, everything Laurel Rutledge that I've done that is video, audio, that kind of stuff, you can find on my YouTube channel. So please go to YouTube. You can subscribe there. You can catch all the new things that happen. Catch me live. I'm also live on LinkedIn. I'm live on Facebook, all the things, right? And then I've got some announcements for you at the end about some stuff that's coming for you in April. Actually, it's going to come at the end of the month, but it's coming in April for those of you who are entrepreneurs, and for those of you who are new direct reports to the C-suite. So you have now reached the senior executive ranks for the first time. So I've got some things for you and for multi-seven-figure entrepreneurs. So that's coming. All right. So let's get into this celebration today. First, I just want to say thank you. Wow, 3 years. I never would have thought it. And 3 years of coming, I've got you're going to see some behind the scenes. So I've got my amazing producer, Jay, is here, who's doing some behind the scenes for me. And so you'll get to catch some of that. I'll put it on my website and stuff. But it is such a different day now than it was when I first did this. And I'm so grateful. I'm so eternally grateful for the opportunity and for having shown up and having believed, and just sometimes you just do just because, right? That's the thing you do. You just do. And so what I want to talk about today in this situation, in celebration of the 3-year anniversary of the show, is this whole idea of vision and showing up and learning through this entrepreneurial journey. So the radio show is 3 years old. The podcast in November of this year will be 4 years old, I believe. Good morning, Mama Young. Thank you. It's going to be 4 years old, I believe. I'll have to go back and look. The years start to run together. And the business is 6 years this year. So, lots of milestones. But in this year, and in looking at this anniversary, because it just kind of snuck up on me, I was like, what have I learned? And something happened yesterday that always happens. I've told y'all this before. sometimes I know exactly what I want to talk about. And then sometimes it's like this divine download that just happens, right? I read something, I hear something, something just happens. And so what happened yesterday, I was looking at reading some posts and following some people that I follow and seeing what they were talking about. And this woman talked about showing up, and it is chapter 2, verse 2 and 3 of Habakkuk or Habakkuk, depending on how you pronounce it. And it talks about write it down and make it plain, and that it will come in the appointed time, right? Write it down and make it plain. And that hit me so hard as a part of this anniversary show. And especially for those of you who are entrepreneurs, those of you who are starting to build businesses, those of you who are embarking upon a side hustle, right? Because there's something else you know you want to do. Those of you who are, even if you're just doing your career thing, right? And you're wanting to do something different, go to a different company, something, right? That write it down and make it plain. Write it down and make it plain. So for me, this journey into entrepreneurship and into this business, when I first decided to start the business, I left because I just had to. It was such a toxic environment. I just had to go. I had to go for my own. Good morning, Steph. Thank you. For my own sanity, I had to leave. I had to find something else to do. And when I left, what was in my mind was, you know what? I know that I was put here for a bigger purpose, to serve bigger. I know that. I have no doubt that that's why I'm here. And thank you. I love you too, Steph. That's why I'm here. I am here to do something bigger, and I can serve bigger and broader and better outside of that corporate space, with all of the issues around toxicity and lack of integrity and profiling and just all the mess in corporate. And I'm spreading peanut butter. I know that. I recognize that. But just that general tendency of corporations to not be people focused, but to be ego focused and shareholder focused as opposed to stakeholder focused. So I had to go. And when I left, I thought, you know what? Here's what I want to do. I want to serve people who are in that corporate space. I don't want any other woman, in particular, any other Black woman, to feel like I felt in corporate, because you are not crazy. I want to serve them. And I want to serve women-owned businesses, like big women-owned businesses, multi-seven-figure businesses, because there reaches that tipping point where what got you here won't get you there, right? The things that you were doing, those heart-led things that got you to this fabulous business that you've built, are now becoming hindrances to where you want to go, because you got to learn how to continue to lead with your heart, but act with your head, right? You got to act with your head. And so those were kind of my two groups that I wanted to serve. And while I was clear in my heart, I wasn't clear. Well, let me rephrase that. I was clear in my head. I wasn't really clear in my heart, right? My gut hadn't really connected. And so that left space for everybody else's idea, everybody else's perspective, everybody else's you shoulda, you ought to, you need to get in. So I took kind of this circuitous route over the last few years. But again, hindsight is 2020. All of those things, everything I learned, everyone I encountered, got me to here in year 6 of the business and year 3 of the radio show, that I am so crystal clear. Those client bases are still the same thing, right? I don't want anybody to feel the way I felt in corporate. And when you get to that new senior executive role, your world changes immediately. Let's talk about that. Let me give you some tools and tricks of the trade to help you survive that new normal, because it is not the same. It is not the same. When you are new to the C-suite, or now a direct report to the C-suite, and that C-suite is generally, if you're in a multinational, it is truly the C-suite. If you are in a multinational, but you're in a division, but you're the top in your division, that is a C-suite. So your role may be an SVP role, right? Or a VP role, but you are the top person where you are. Good morning, Dr. Shayla. Just talked about you. You are the top person in your role. That is that new level. You are the senior executive. So if you're new to that role, your life has changed. So that's really clear. That's still people. And then these multi-7-figure women who are running businesses, who are making a difference. But here's the other thing that happened. Not but, and full stop. That's clear. And here's the other thing that happened. That was my why. I don't want anybody to feel like me, and I want these women to be able to keep running these businesses and not have to write really big checks because they made stupid mistakes, right? There's a way to avoid that stuff. It's my risk management mind. It's the things that make me your exceptional chief navigation officer, right? That whole crazy career I had through accounting and through internal audit and through enterprise risk management, all those things that on the surface seem like completely disconnected are what gave me the skills and the abilities to see and connect dots that you can't connect and to help you navigate really weird situations because I can see down the road. It's just the way I'm wired. It's the way I'm made. And so those things are really clear to me, being your chief navigation officer, helping you navigate these spaces. That is a very clear why. It's a real why. It is absolutely in integrity for me. And I know that is where I'm going to be able to make a significant impact in this world. So it is better than when I got into it because I have done what I've been called to do. What has happened because I've continued to show up and because I started writing things down and because I paused and really listened to what wasn't feeling right. Like as I was trying to put some things together, some group things together and plans and do all the things that everybody tells you to do, all the pundits tell you to do, something wasn't sitting in my gut right. And I didn't know what it was. So I stopped. I said, okay, what is this? Laurel, go back to your roots. When something doesn't feel right in my world, it's one of the 4 pieces of my root system: faith, family, friends, or health, right? And that health being big health, physical, financial, emotional, psychological, right? Something's not right. And what I realized is I wasn't connected to the deeper purpose. Good morning, Mom. To the deeper purpose. And that is a true belief that every child, regardless of socioeconomic status, regardless of location, regardless of any of those things that they have absolutely no control over, every single child deserves access to an exceptional K through 12 education. Full stop. That I realized is my deeper why. That's the deeper why. The real impact I want to make on this world before I leave, because see, these same kids in K through 12 now are the ones that are going to be making decisions for me when I'm 80, right? So what can I do to impact? Because education is a great equalizer. Now notice, I said K through 12. I didn't say college. I didn't say technical school. I didn't say any of those things. I think those things are important. I think they're a way to continue to build and grow and learn, but they are not an immediate eliminator of possibility and opportunity if you decide not to do those things. Because if you have access to a quality, exceptional K through 12 education, you can do whatever you want to do and you can build an incredible life and legacy for your family with that K through 12 education if it's exceptional. So that's my deeper why, to build this $100 million foundation that's going to go after that. No teacher having to come out of their pocket to stock their classroom. No family having to not have their kid eat because somehow they got behind on paying for the subsidized lunch. That's just ridiculous to me. And kids can't learn if they're hungry. So we got to fix that, right? Access to technology, real technology. So AT&T, T-Mobile, I'm looking at you. What are we going to do to put good access to good technology in the hands of folks who can't necessarily afford it? They can't just go down to the Apple store and buy the iPad or the MacBook, okay? Or even the Dell or the tablet. That's the deeper why. And so when I talk about, this 3-year anniversary and showing up and this whole idea of write it down and make it plain, what happened to me at the end of last year and into this year was, as these things started coming clearer to me as an entrepreneur, they came to me as non-negotiable. I went back to what I had written down in 2018 when I started the business. I went back to what I originally said, what my gut and my heart and my soul originally said. And it was an LLC that was an umbrella organization with a business consulting arm, a media arm, right? Podcast, radio show, book, fireside show that looks like it's now going to start being streamed on television, right? And then the foundation that those businesses, the consulting business funds foundation, right? There's a certain amount of that profit that goes to fund the foundation. And then I'm going out and finding people, Mackenzie Scott, I'm going to be sending you a note too, to help fund this, because this is about all of us, right? And what happens when you're an entrepreneur and you are showing up in your genius and in your space, and not just entrepreneurs, even if you're in a career and you want to be the CEO of whatever business it is, when you are showing up in your space and in your genius, and you are writing it down and making it plain to you and to other people, things show up. When I mentioned on the air about this $100 million foundation that I intend to build, I had a cousin reach out to me and say, hey, I just listened to your podcast where you talked about that. Here's some teachers I know that I'm getting ready to connect you to. Didn't even know she was listening to my podcast, right? I have a dear friend of mine who is a friend for life. Good morning, Reverend Wright, who's a friend of mine forever. She's one of my fierce five, who is in the Colorado Department of Education doing amazing things and is connected to Arnie Duncan, the former head of the Department of Education for the U.S. Connection, right? I have had more people reach out to me to say, what can I do? How can I help? Because we understand that education is the great equalizer. Because I put it out there and I'm standing in the purpose. I am standing in, what did I learn? What have I learned over these 3 years, over these 6 years of business? And when I wrote it down and made it plain, did I then stand in the anticipation of it coming? Because it is going to come at the appointed time. The time is now. It's coming at the appointed time, right? And so as entrepreneurs in particular, I'm really, really talking to you today. As entrepreneurs in particular, when you are building your business, when you are deciding how you are going to maybe redefine a strategy, or the economy does really crazy things and you're questioning again, what's going on? Why did I do this? Is this really where I'm supposed to be? Write it down and make it plain. Or better yet, go back to where you wrote it down 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago, and you were so clear on what you wanted. Go back to that. Now, life may have changed, circumstances may have changed. The particulars of the how are not important. It's the what. It's the what. What is it that you were put here to bring into the world? What is it that you were put here to make happen? What purpose are you fulfilling? Right? What is the impact that you're willing to make? And how do you sit in that impact and continue to live into that and live into that purpose? Again, write it down and make it plain, and it will appear at the appointed time. At the appointed time. As a woman of faith, it's so funny. I don't know how many times I've read that passage. I've read it a lot. But until, I've talked about this on podcasts before. Sometimes we don't hear what we say. We're so busy talking that we aren't necessarily listening to the words that are coming out of our mouth, right? It's easier when somebody repeats something to us. That's why it's good to have mentors and coaches and sounding boards, because we often get more when someone, yes, chapter 2, verse 2 through 3. We get more when someone repeats it to us because we hear it differently, right? Our ears are focused, not our mouth. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, right? We should listen more than we speak. And so when I hear these things and read these things, I was like, man, that's what I needed to hear. That's what I needed to hear. So the other part of that story is, last night, I have another client who I love. She's just amazing. She is building this incredible team in oil and gas, which is really tough because it's Women's History Month, right? And it is a very male-dominated industry. And I've been in oil and gas, been in Big Chem, been in a lot of things. And she has too. We have very similar paths. She's been in education. She was in retail. She's done a lot of stuff. And now she's in oil and gas. And she's built this incredible global team in this multinational company. And it is not, a Fortune 500. It is a smaller firm, but the team is global. And so we were doing a session last night with her team that was in India and Malaysia, Dubai, Saudi Arabia. and the folks from India had on their purple saris last night. They were just beautiful. And so we were talking about our journeys and women and how we show up as women in these spaces and how we have the courage to continue to show up and to give feedback and to say, that's not okay. It's not okay that you were talking to me like that or talking to anybody else like that. It's not okay that you made a decision and said, oh, she's getting married, so we're not even going to offer her the promotion. That's not okay, right? You're going to ask her first, just like you would ask anybody else, or better yet, you're not going to ask her. You're just going to give her the promotion like you would do any guy. That's what we're going to do when I'm in the room, right? It's taking up space. It's owning the space that you're in. And so we were having this conversation last night with these amazing women around the world and talking about how we show up and how we sit in courage and how we build these careers that really matter. And part of the thing that came up as I was listening to these incredible women was not only are our journeys similar from a gender perspective, especially if you're in oil and gas, right? From a gender perspective, our experiences are similar. And all of the other stuff that sits on top of that, one common denominator, location, ethnicity, age, culture, experience, all that other stuff that sits on top of that begins to inform how we show up. And that it is a journey. So for those of you who are earlier in your career or new entrepreneurs or what have you, and you may be trying to go to a VC and get funding for your business, and you are a woman, in particular, a woman of color, and you're now going to have to go, in some cases, justify your very existence before they even consider, giving you money. The journey to that point of confidence in your competence is not overnight. It's not overnight. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some folks that I've met. There's some millennials and some Gen Z who have no doubt. It's like coming out of the womb. They knew exactly what they wanted and who they were, and they weren't having anything else besides that. More power to you, my sisters, right? Y'all are killing it. And there is such a thing as strength and finesse and agility and responsiveness that comes from experience and exposure, right? Knowing when it's time to respond publicly and when it's time to pull somebody aside. My parents always taught us, you praise in public, you criticize in private. Because sometimes that public criticism leads to defensiveness and argument, and that's not the point. The point is to correct behavior. And if someone is embarrassed enough by the fact that their behavior was taken the wrong way, or worse yet, someone is so egotistical and entitled that they don't care that their behavior is offensive because it's theirs and everybody else just needs to get over it, a public reprimand or public addressing of that issue could lead to an outcome that is not necessary, anticipated, or wanted, much less a response that is helpful in remedying the situation. Sometimes you have to know when to go behind the scenes. You also have to know when that public call out is absolutely necessary. I had a CEO tell me years ago, every once in a while, you just got to bite somebody in public. After that, all you have to do is bare your teeth. Now, that was radical, right? You don't have to be biting everybody, and everything doesn't have to be a fight. But his point was, sometimes the learning for everyone else in the room is the public discussion of the situation. When we talk about experience and finesse, if you're going to have that public discussion, that's where your experience and your confidence and your competence come into play. And how do I have that discussion that is focused on a behavior and the impact of that behavior on outcomes versus it becoming some kind of character attack? Because that's when it gets personal, that's when people's minds shut down. That's when it becomes non-productive, right? The whole point of having these kind of discussions and showing up and sitting in your strength, right? And this journey of entrepreneurship, this journey of coming into who you are and showing up and learning is about understanding the when and the where and the how to address things. It's one of the pieces of it, right? Same thing with clients. You've got a client you think you need to fire. How are you going to do that? Right? How are you going to do that respectfully? Because see, you don't have to be ugly to be candid. You don't have to be nasty to give constructive feedback. It has to be given, but it doesn't have to be nasty. And the reality is, it is not a judgment on someone's character, although you may have an opinion on that person's character. It's not about their character. It's about the behavior, the impact of that behavior on the outcomes that were anticipated or expected. That's what you're addressing, right? That's the thing that you need to get your head wrapped around, because then you can also sit in compassion and not emotion, which is the other thing that I have learned that I do really well, right? I do that really well when I'm working with people, and especially working with entrepreneurs, and in particular with folks in corporate who are in leadership positions. It's about compassion, not emotion. It is really easy for me to compartmentalize, because see, it's not personal for me. I am compassionate and concerned about the people I am leading. I'm concerned about the organization and what the organization says it wants. I am concerned about how behavior impacts people, right? Business person first, HR person second, mission first, people always, right? I lead with compassion because we have to understand people's journey. We have to understand where they are that brought them to the situation in the first place, and where their mindset may be. And then we have to do something. Now, this is not to say that I'm never emotional or that I didn't lose my cool, because I have. I absolutely have. And there are times when that is not only appropriate, but it is necessary. Because every once in a while, folks will mistake your kindness for weakness. And in my case, that is a significant mistake. Just because I'm not yelling and screaming and cussing and doing all that kind of stuff today does not mean I didn't see you. Does not mean I didn't see what you did. Does not mean I'm not concerned about the impact. It just means I'm choosing how I'm going to address it with you, but it will be addressed. It absolutely will be addressed. And then there are times when you have to just call it out, right? So most of the time for me, as I've talked about this learning in this 3 years and this 6 years of business, I've learned a lot about me, that whole idea of writing it down and making it plain. One of the things that I have learned is that when I say it's not unkind to be clear, I mean that. Oh, y'all see Jay in the background? When I say it's not unkind to be clear, I mean that, right? You don't have to be nasty to be candid. It is not unkind to be clear. You've got to be clear about what you want and what you mean. In fact, I had this situation with a client recently, a new client, and she's like, Laurel, you know what? Okay, so I just need to understand. Can we get on the phone? Because I am so not clear. Here, when I read this, here's what I take. And I'm like, oh, that is so not what I meant. And I sent her a note and I said, you know what? You are exactly right. And that is my fault. I was not clear. I am using language, right, based on other client interactions, corporate language, the same thing I talk about, right? Entrepreneurs who have never been in corporate, who are speaking to me using the same words, but meaning something different. I did the same thing to this new client. And because I'm me, I'm like, you know what? We're going to apologize and make that right. Because she's right. If she didn't understand it, if she wasn't clear, that means I was not clear. And it's my job to be clear so that then she can make a decision, whatever that decision is. Because see, I'm not necessarily invested in her decision, but I am invested in her clarity. I am invested in her making a decision that is the best decision for her based on the information that I can give her. And then that's up to the universe, right? And what's going to happen. But I have to show up clear, clean, ready to move in a way that I say I'm going to move, right? That's what that means. And so there was a time, right, with this one, there was a time that would have really hurt my feelings. I don't understand. Oh my gosh, I completely ruined it. No. Look, I know me. And I know that there are times when I will have full conversations with me and think I've had them outside. I have not. That's also one of the things about being an introvert and also about working from home, right? Where you're only surrounded with you all the time. I'm always having staff meetings with me, right? So I recognize that and I needed to fix that. But there are other times when it's like, you know what? That's not me. And I'll give you this example. I don't know if I've told you this story before. Um, I was in an organization, and we were getting ready to implement a new process. We'd been talking about this process forever. Now, I was already battling an organization that had really, really long tenure. They'd never seen anything like this before. They had asked for a solution, but they'd never seen a solution designed like this before. So, good morning, Deanna. So, clearly, because they hadn't seen it, it couldn't be real. So, I was already battling that. Plus, I was battling just this culture of an inability or an unwillingness to kind of own things and just move forward and then respond accordingly to the feedback. It was that whole, we got to test it with 400 people before we did that kind of madness. Because again, apparently my career started the day I crossed over the threshold of this organization. The fact that I've been working 20 years didn't matter, right? When I got there, apparently I was brand new. So I was doing a presentation to this level of senior executives. I was on the senior team, and I was doing a presentation to the executives. And every time I opened my mouth, someone jumped in and cut me off. And then they were cutting each other off. And then they were saying things like, that's not true. That's not right. That's not, I mean, I could literally only get out 3 or 4 words before someone interrupted. And I'd had it. Now, I was also exhausted. There was a lot of other stuff going on, but I'd had it. And so finally I said, and I yelled, and I was like, enough. I am not going to stand here and have y'all talking all over each other and talking all over me. Clearly, this organization is not ready for this, or you're not ready for me to tell you how to do this. Either way, I'm done with this today, so we can move on to something else. And I literally packed my stuff up, went back to my seat, grabbed my bottle of water, went and filled my bottle, and came and said, y'all carry on with the meeting. I shall return. Stunned silence, right? I didn't cuss. I didn't, get all madness, but I was not having it. And here's the thing. I work too long and I'm too old to be dealing with that. And we're not going to get anywhere if you're talking all over me, you're talking all over each other. If you don't want to do this, just say you don't want to do this. And we can move on, because see, I got other stuff to do. But if you are serious about what you say you want, then I'm going to hold you accountable to the words you say. And when your words and your actions do not align, I'm going to call it out. And in this particular situation, I had to call it out publicly and loudly. Now, we ultimately ended up doing that thing, right? And it turned out to be a great success. We ended up doing it. But it was a pain in my butt to get it through, because I was dealing with ego and entitlement and a lack of knowledge of anything outside of that organization. Because again, the power of long tenure is you have incredible institutional knowledge. There is beauty in that. Long tenured organizations, man, there is power in that long tenure, in that institutional knowledge. There is real power in that. And the other side of that coin is, if in that long tenure, there has been a tendency to never connect outside of the company, outside of the industry, and in spaces to see what else is new, you get a tendency to believe that the way we do it is the way it should be done, and there's nothing else that could inform our decisions. That's dangerous. That means your organization is going to start operating and functioning on pure inertia, which is great if you want to at least keep making some semblance of money, but it's horrendous if what you really want to do is innovate. If you really want to move forward, if you really want to be fast to fail and do all these things that you say you want, that means when you hire people who have different experiences than you, who have actually been doing stuff and doing it well, you might want to actually listen to them and challenge your own fear of something that's new. As entrepreneurs, especially when we get to a certain level, you get to that 7-8 figure level, you get to that 5, 10, 15-year level, right? You have been grinding so much, you've been making it happen, you have built this thing that's incredible. And then all of that talk starts getting in. Oh my gosh, I made it this far. I don't know. Can I keep going? Is this still going to happen? Can I make this happen? This doesn't feel the same way. People aren't responding the way they used to. And don't let an economic challenge happen, right? It's like, get behind me, Satan. And all that noise that tells you can't, or you shouldn't, or you ought not to, or it's not going to work. You begin to take on that persona of, wait a minute, that's new, that's different. I don't know. I'm unfamiliar. Let me stick with what I know. What you know is great. What you know got you to the level of success you have now. But what you know is not necessarily going to get you to the level of success that you say you want. What do you want, and what are you willing to do to make it happen? What do you want, and what are you willing to do to make it happen? Write it down and make it plain. Y'all, that just spoke to me this week, right? Write it down and make it plain. In fact, I spent a lot of time yesterday going back and almost rewriting. Like I took my old vision and I rewrote it, right? Reconnecting my hand and my head and my heart with this thing that was in my gut, in my soul. For those of you who don't journal, there's something about, at least for me, there's something about that connection of my hand, right, and my brain that just makes things work for me. There's actually some scientific study. We're going to do some shout outs here in a minute. There's actually some scientific study that says, when you write down notes, you retain better. So when I studied and I wrote down, I retained much better. And they've even been doing studies lately on kids in school who are been taking notes now for at least a decade, right, on laptops and things, how there's better retention when folks are actually taking notes by hand as opposed to typing them, right? There is a level of retention that matters and that happens when you're actually doing something with your hand, when you're having to connect your body to the learning. And so, as I continue to move in this space and learn in this space and develop in this space, because we're all continuing to learn and develop, right? When you stop learning, you stop developing, you stop growing, then you die, right? You got to keep moving. You got to keep learning. As we continue to do those things, and as I continue to do those things and bring these stories and tell more of my stories to you, there's that bottom line thing that I know, right? I know that I was put here to make an impact on K through 12 education. And I was here to make an impact on those folks who are new to those senior executive roles and those women business owners that I don't want to lose their business because they just made a stupid mistake, right? Because their heart was leading, right, their actions, as opposed to the heart really leading their purpose and their mind leading their actions, right? That seems like a fine line, but it's a big difference. It's that difference between compassion and emotion. Compassionate people can make really tough people decisions. Emotional people keep that person that's toxic to your organization, because heaven forbid you say something or do something, right? But I will tell you, as many CEOs will tell you, hire slow, fire fast. Be clear on your vision. Be clear on your mission. Communicate clearly. It is not unkind to be clear. Be consistent. Let people know who you are. Create safe spaces for people to show up. Safe spaces for people to operate in their genius, to tell you things that you may not have ever thought about. Don't surround yourself with yes people. Surround yourself with folks who are going to tell you the truth and who have as much vested in your vision, or at least in their own vision, that they see your vision as supporting what they want, right? Every relationship doesn't have to be forever. Sometimes a relationship is just for a moment. People come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. That's employees too. That's service providers too. Everything isn't meant to be forever. Every relationship isn't meant to be forever. And there are some that you thought were forever that go away for a minute and then come back, and you will die with them because they were meant to be forever. They just had to take a break for a reason, right? You may have needed to grow or move or change for a minute. And then you're back stronger and better. Stronger and better. All right, let's take a quick break and do some shout outs. Or not. Y'all, so Jay's taking everybody and Jerry act like she don't want to be on camera.
Australia is in the house, Brazil, Kenya, Netherlands, Canada, France, Mexico, Germany, Finland. We also have Nassau, Bahamas. Hey.
Yay!
Montreal, Helsinki, Frankfurt, Omaha, Atlanta, Raleigh, Los Angeles, Chicago, Dallas, Kansas City, Washington, D.C., and Houston.
I love it. And I've got Cincinnati, I've got Odessa, I've got Houston, I've got Tennessee. Steph, I have no idea where you are. And Deanna, I know you said you were working out of Texas. So thank y'all for tuning in too. Again, 3-year anniversary. I keep showing up because y'all keep showing up, man. I know. See, Jerry didn't even know. See, I just show up all the time. Jerry don't know.
Jerry don't know when she's in here. And I'm gonna be honest about that. I really don't. I'm like, what? How do you remember that? And I'm being honest when I say that. I have never kept up with an anniversary of where I worked or what I've done, and I find it interesting that you do that. And I think it's important to do that.
Yeah.
But I just have never, and I'm like, how long have I been here?
Right.
No offense to you. I just
Right.
don't know.
Hey, Deanna. Oh, Deanna's in Virginia, so we got Virginia in the house too. And I got the Heights in the house. Good morning, Sarah Marcia. So yeah, I am really bad at birthdays and stuff. You know, my teams that I worked with would always tell you, I'm the one that's like, I don't plan the parties. I don't do that stuff. I'm really bad at remembering those things. If they're not in my calendar, I don't remember them. And even if they are in my calendar, sometimes I'll forget. But one of the things that, as I began to get in higher and higher levels of leadership and was leading more and more people, because leadership is about behavior, not about position. Those are things that I didn't do. I don't want to throw the parties I don't want to do. I would rather cut off my arm than go to a corporate event, right? I just hate them. And I also know how important they are. They're important for connection. They're important for building trust. They're important for collaboration. They're really important. So I go because I know they're important for the business. And because I don't love that stuff, I surrounded myself with people, not only who had the skills that I needed, because you always hire for the skills you don't have, right? But also who had the personalities to like that stuff and to enjoy that stuff. So I made sure that I had people who could do that stuff for me. And so as I started this business, I had very early on somebody say, we got to remember to celebrate the wins. And we used to do that in corporate, celebrate the wins, because it was so easy to beat people up for a failure. But you need to celebrate the wins, even if they're small. And so I just decided when I started this business, I'm like, I'm going to celebrate these wins because this is a big deal. Y'all, I walked away from a senior executive role making really, really good money. I walked away from the golden handcuffs, the title, the travel. I was traveling so much. I got global services one year, right? Where they pick you up from the plane, drive you on the tarmac to the next connection. That's how I was rolling professionally, but my soul was tired, right? My soul was sick. And I walked away from that to start this thing. And this is not easy. Entrepreneurship is not easy. If you got an inability to deal with hard stuff, if you don't have a village, if you don't have a therapist or somebody, sounding board, go put that in place before you decide to take your side hustle to be your only hustle. Because I'm telling you, all that stuff that is coming up for you right now, and you got a check coming in on a regular basis. When that check starts coming in, that stuff gets exponential. Satan is busy. Okay. That stuff gets big. It gets heavy. It gets loud. And you have to have that village, right? My mom and my bonus mom are on here today. You have to have that village around you of people who are like, nope, keep going. Nope, that's good. Nope, we're so proud of you. Nope, I love that. Ooh, what are you doing? Right? You need those people. You need to be able to find those coaches. You need to be able to find those service providers who really are aligned with your vision, who can pump you up and push you forward. Who, when you're saying, I don't know, and I've said this more than once, I just need to go get a job. I just need to go get a job. This is ridiculous. I just need to go get a job. It's not working. Nothing's coming, blah, 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 blah. All the things. And would have people who would listen to me, be emotional and crying and complete dorsal, right? All I could do was go to bed and cover up. That's all I could do. Would say, okay, are you done now? Because we got work to do. So you need to keep showing up, because if you don't show up, then the person who does need you isn't going to be able to find you. So what you doing? What are you doing? Right? That's the thing. Find your village. Find your village, find your support system, find those people who are invested in your success. Find those people who believe in you and who are also going to tell you the truth. Find that so that you can move into that space that you say you really want to move into. But first, get clear on it and write it down and write it plain. Write it plain. Because that's where we often get caught up in a whole lot of madness too. We got these big elaborate ideas and we got all this stuff we want to do. And it's bells and whistles and rainbows and unicorns. And not only can we not do it, we can't find the people who can do it. And we don't have the energy or the desire to really do what is necessary to do it. But it looks good on paper. Write it down and make it plain. Write it down and make it plain. For me, it's gotten really simple. Foundation, media, consulting. That's it. The foundation will be funded by some of the business, and then I'm going to get investors in this foundation because we are going to do something about K through 12 education. ECISD, I'm looking at you, right? The business is going to be able to support me, right? And not me and 12 houses, because see, that's not how I roll, but support me, right? In my continued desire to develop and to learn and to grow and to pop up places so I can do these radio shows with you guys in person, right? The book is going to be able to spread a message, right? The radio show, the podcast, all of these things that are in media are going to be able to help me spread a message to be able to make an impact. It's write it down and make it. It is so clear. It is so clear. Now it's about what is it going to take to make it happen? What is it going to take to continue to make it happen? And that's part of the learning too. I have a tendency, right? Proper prior planning prevents poor performance. 6 P's, which is a beautiful thing because a goal without a plan is just a wish. The challenge is we get so caught up in planning. We are down the road across the bridge in the next county. And we needed to stay put for a minute. So I am so good at kind of seeing the next steps that I have to force myself to stay in the moment, to work on this thing that I've got right here, to realign what I'm doing to be focused right here. And so for those of you who are listening and watching and tuning in, who are entrepreneurs, who are planning to be entrepreneurs, who are thinking about entrepreneurship, write it down and make it plain. Why are you doing it? Right? What's your why? And you might have two like me. You might have your why for the business and then your real deep why for your existence. Right? Know that. Write that down and make that plain. So that way, everything you do, you can come back to that. You can come back to that root system. Faith, family, friends, and health. If something's not right, I know where to go. I know immediately something's not right. Okay, what is it, Laurel? You've been eating like crap. Your health is off. Let's fix that. Right? You haven't been doing your meditation every morning. Let's fix that. I know. And that's what I help my clients know, right? What are your things that you go back to that ground you, your root system? That's why I have a tree for my logo. What's your root system? When things are off, where do you go back to? So before we get into questions and head out of here for today, here's what's coming up. So I'm doing my website refresh. I'm so excited about that. I can't wait to share that with y'all. So my website is up. It's still there, but doing a website refresh. But here's what's coming to you in April. And this is where we talk about write it down and make it plain. So I told you about, this working with these executives and then also working with business owners. And so what's happening and what's coming your way, and you can join my email list if you want to get all the announcements on this. So you can just go to my website, laurelrutledge.com, and there'll be a pop-up to join my email list. You can get all the announcements. So go to my email list for that. But what's coming up, and you'll start seeing all the announcements here in the last couple of weeks of March, and the things are going to start in April. And this is where, write it down, make it plain, be clear. There's all these things around when you are a service provider and you're wanting to connect with people and have people purchase your services or start to work with you. There's this whole sales pitch and sales philosophy that's operate in scarcity, right? Operate in scarcity. I've only got so many. It's only lasting this long. I've only got so many spots. We're only going to do, okay, you know what? I'm not doing that. So who knows how this will land for people, but I'm telling you, that's out of integrity for me. So if I tell you I only have a capacity for a certain amount, That's real. I'm not going to open it back up later. I'm not doing any of that, because see, that's a lie. And if I want you to trust me in order to help you get where you want to be, there has to be trust for that. And I can't start the relationship with a lie about how I work with you. That just makes no sense to me. So what's going to be coming your way is two things. One, and I mentioned this a few weeks ago, I think, it is a founders intensive, and I'm calling it founder for a reason. It's a founders intensive. This is a full day with you as the founder of your business that is multi-seven figure, where you are at kind of a crossroads, right? You're at either that about 7 years, or you're about 15 to 20 people. And it's that your gut feeling is that, wait, I know I'm still grinding. I'm still doing the things I want to do, but something's not working the same way I thought it was. And I'm not doing anything different, right? Something's not right. It is a full day intensive. You will come here to Houston. We will go away. We will have, I'll have a great space for us, and we're going to work through your strategy and your organization. That's what we're doing. And we're going to leave with a plan of action for you. So if that is you, and I'll post some things that give you a little bit more information about that. If that is you, I'm going to be doing 2 of those a month, because right now with my other client load, and because the way I like to do those, which is very intense, getting information from you first, and then we work through all of this stuff together with my guidance. I'm doing 2 of those a month starting in April. And I just can't take more than 2 for the way I like to do it from an intensity perspective. The other thing that's happening is a group ongoing, like, open enrollment thing. And starting in April, it is a 3-month process with the opportunity to continue to just be in the community. So there's a 3-month commitment. And every month is either alignment, vision, or action. So the first month of the quarter, we talk about alignment. The second month of the quarter, we talk about your vision. And third month of the quarter, we move into action. What are the actions that you're going to take? So every month is those 3. I will be live every week for this group. I will be recording those. So even if you come in at a different time, because again, it's going to be open enrollment. If you come in at a different time, there's going to be a library of the things that you've missed, so you can go back to those. That, at this point in time, I don't have a limit on people who are going to be in that, because it's going to be more of a community, and I'm going to be live coaching. So if that is something that resonates with you, and that is for people who are new in those senior executive roles, you have got to get aligned. You know that you've now made it to this pinnacle, but who is the leader you're going to be, right? And what is your vision for this role, for your organization, for your team? Right. And then what are the things that you're going to do and you're going to take action on to make sure that you are always showing up authentically? So we're going to do that. So if you are new to a senior executive role and you are ready to really dive into that, generally you've been in there 3 to 6 months and you're like, whoop, my life just changed, right? Maybe up to a year. This is for you. So you're going to see a lot of that information. But again, that one, I will do a discount for the first people, probably for the first month or 2. I'll do a discount. Actually, it won't be 2 months. For the first about month, I'll do a discount on the first people that sign up, just because it's new, right? So I will do that. That is real. That is true. I will do a discount. And it is a 3-month commitment. That is true. And then after that, it's an ongoing monthly if you choose to stay in. And you don't have to stay in, but I'm believing that it is going to be building a community of these senior level executives who are looking to build the next level. And here's the thing. The other commitment, while it is open, there's no limit on this. My commitment to you, though, is if I do see people that are from the same organization, right, it has to be a safe space for you to be vulnerable, to think about the things and talk about the things that are really resonating for you. If there are people from the same organization, we'll figure it out. I may do a couple of different cohorts or something like that, or have some different open sessions so that not the same people from the same organization, unless they both agree, right, will be in the same situation so people don't feel like they're stifled. So stay tuned for that coming, right? Write it down and make it plain. New to the senior executive ranks or multi-7-figure women business owners who are kind of at that crossroads, ready to do something different, I've got something for you. And I'm out there everywhere. The radio show is 3 years old. You can go back and look at old radio shows. You can go listen to the podcast. I show up as me all the time. What you see is what you get. I'm always going to tell the truth. I'm going to really, really dive into what you say you want versus who you say you are versus what you're willing to do in an environment of no judgment. because my perspective is we all got stuff. So who am I to judge you? My role as your chief navigation officer is to facilitate your journey to what you say you want, either in your career or with your business. That's my job. That's what I'm put here to do. And then I'll keep you guys posted on the foundation, because that's coming. If that doesn't happen, it will not be for lack of effort. But I am believing. Write it down, make it plain. I've written it down. I'm making it plain. I'm getting the structure ready. It's going to be ready. So stay tuned for that, because there's going to be opportunities for you to participate, because it's going to build to also have some ways for these students in K through 12 to have some sounding boards, maybe some additional training for school counselors. I'm going to stay away, at least initially, I'm going to stay away from curriculum because I am not an expert in curriculum design. So I'm not going to try to jump in that lane. But we are going to talk about the fact that we're not banning books. With the money that I'm giving, we're not banning books. In fact, I might create the ban book club, right? We're not banning books. We're not doing that. So thank you. Thank you for being a part of the Rutledge Perspective radio show, for being a part of my village, radio show, podcast, fireside show, business, all the things. Thank you for being here and for continuing to show up, because I do not take that for granted. And I really, truly appreciate that you do that. Tune into the podcast this month, because you're going to hear some interviews with some amazing women. This week, tomorrow, you'll meet Rachel, who is the president of Vita Design in Portland, Oregon. So stay tuned for these 4 amazing women that you will meet this month, because they have amazing stories to tell. Thank y'all for tuning in. I will be back next week. As Jerry says, the Lord says the same. I will be back next week. And we always pray he does. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.